Welcome to a very special edition of Master Leaf Theater by Islanders Anxiety. Mike, a week ago, the Maple Leafs, they fired general manager Brad Treliving, and we knew immediately that we were going to have to do a Master Leaf Theater because some crazy shit was going to come out about this whole thing. Unfortunately, the Islanders got into some crazy shit of their own, and it prompted us to put on the back burner a little bit. I mean, obviously, the schedule had a lot to do with it as well. But we're here finally to give this momentous occasion its due. As I said on Islanders Anxiety the other day, this was a lot funnier before the Islanders had their own high profile firing that, has become news in the last couple of days. But there is a lot here about the Brad Treliving firing that Maple Leafs writers really, really needed to get off their chests. And there's some of it's just mind-boggling. And I feel like I don't know how long these guys have been storing this stuff up, but it feels like they were ready when Treliving was finally given his pink slip that he had so richly deserved.
Yeah, this is a much needed distraction.
Hmm.
And as you said, it was awkward because I was like really enjoying all of this up until Monday against the Penguins, right? Like, and then it
Right.
kind of and there was an incredible piece of I, I don't know what you would call it from the Master Pens universe.
Hmm.
I don't know what we can describe that as if it was like almost like a Reddit conspiracy theory that ended up on the Athletic, and we'll get to it eventually, but obviously now is not the time for that. But I was like enjoying all of this because it's like, wow, this it's so much fun to watch these people all lose their minds over this stuff, and then I lost my mind over the Islanders, so it became a little different. But now, with a couple days to kind of shake off the what was going on with the Islanders, I'm really excited to dive into this because, as you said, yeah, Brad Treliving's demise. I've never seen a media cohort, a beat group of reporters who are definitely not fans root
Hmm.
for an executive's demise in this way. Because you're not generally supposed to do it. I mean, I don't think I saw a lot of folks for the New York Islanders media contingent. I know it's a lot smaller.
Hmm.
Kind of like write every article with a bent of Patrick Waugh needs to be fired. Nor
Right.
did I see that with like Lou, when he
Right.
was, uh, kicked to wherever he was kicked to in Scott Malkin's orbit. Hell, I mean, even with like Garth and Lane Lambert, like it was never like this. Like it's not written in this way, which is once again totally professional objective media professionals, not fans, writing and podcasting. As if they are, that a diehard in section 328, row 11, screaming, "Brad must go, Tree must
Yeah.
go," right? Throwing jerseys on the ice,
Right.
with their quill, and that's what we
Hmm.
got here. And of course, the catharsis, and then the relief when he was finally gone. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can't wait to get to all this because it's a lot of fun to juxtapose it. The Maple Leafs famously also fired a GM a few years ago,
Yes.
and let's just say that the way that demise was covered compared to this one, ooh, it's it was like it was almost like a this one felt like a toppling, like when when
Yeah.
a dictator is toppled. There might be a couple writers of The Athletic who are going, "Pull down the Treliving statue outside the Ford Performance Center."
Yeah, this one, it felt like they had been firing Brad Treliving since like November, basically, since the Leafs season basically went off the rails. It was just assumed that he would be fired. And so these guys were constantly writing stuff about, well, the next Leafs GM, the guy who's not the guy who's currently the Leafs GM. And they got the coach got that treatment too, but of course the coach is still here and the GM isn't. And then it's managed to get them to go back through all of this stuff. It was not a surprise, but that's why I'm saying it feels like they had a lot kind of in the chamber ready to go when the firing happened. The Dubas thing, and he will of course come up here because they can't let that go. That was more of a surprise. Like they just kind of assumed that he would just, be re-signed. And then when him and Brendan Shanahan were both gone, like they couldn't really comprehend what had happened. And then before you know it, Treliving was in the job. And they were like, okay, now what? And so now they a GM they never wanted and felt like he was going to get fired, felt like he would be fired at the end of the season, is gone. And so they have all this sort of pent up aggression that they need to get out. And we are here for all of it. And we have, I think, 8 selections here. It's a lot. And they're by mostly different people. We don't have, I think there's only one repeat writer in here, which is very funny too, a very Leafs concept as well. Before we get into that though, a reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Sign up there for even more Master Leaf Theater, but obviously all the other bonus stuff and chats with us and written posts that you get along with that as well. Patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. But the reason I bring that up is because usually during the off season at the Patreon, I put together compilations of our Master Leaf Theater bits throughout the regular season. And I mean, I'll probably do that this year too with the bits from different Islanders Anxiety episodes. But like, we have done so much of this year that even if we just did that, it would be like a 4, maybe 5 hour long episode, like a bonus episode. It's a lot. So I'm really not sure how I'm going to handle all this, but this has been a banner year for Master Leaf Theater. Tons and tons and tons of things because they've been bad on the ice. They've been bad off the ice. And as we're going to see, it goes pretty deep. And it's been a lot of fun, to watch if you're a Leafs hater, as we are. So with all that said, let's get into it. And of course, we have to begin an episode of Master Leaf Theater with the one and only Luke Fox Jukebox. Again, the Jane Austen of Master Leaf Theater, the man I think we've read more often than anybody else because he's just so damn good at it. And this is a perfect example of why we do this bit, why it has to exist, and why whenever the Leafs do something funny, we immediately go to Luke Fox Jukebox for the best coverage of the event. So this is from Sportsnet, comes from April 1st, 2026. This is the day after Treliving was fired. We'll get to that in a minute. But the title is Why Keith Pelley's Next Maple Leafs Hire Must Be a Home Run by Luke Fox Jukebox. Now, Keith Pelley, we'll find out, is the CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, the man who fired Brad Treliving, and the man who is in charge of finding a new general manager for the Leafs. But while talking about Keith Pelley's next hire needing to be a home run, nobody ever says a single is fine. Like, why Keith Pelley's next Maple Leafs hire must be a bunt single. Like, nobody's ever going to write that. It's got to be a home run, right? But Luke Fox really, really kicks us off in incredible fashion with the following few paragraphs. If you're lucky, the end comes so quick, it's nearly romantic. In an instant, you realize your window is about to close. In the next, it slams shut with a bang. A faulty parachute, an angry beat, arsenic in the tea. Way more often, though, the death of something once vibrant and promising isn't spectacular or sudden whatsoever. The end is realized only in wake of a series of tiny pains and mistakes, paper cuts mounting to a flesh wound, an infection that festers and spreads with time until you have none left. There were all sorts of small signs the 25-26 Toronto Maple Leafs under Brad Treliving weren't a well-oiled machine churning in concert towards their common aim of winning a Stanley Cup. A general manager that stopped going on road trips and being available to speak to reporters. A coach announcing there will be no scratches of potentially traded players hours before 3 potentially traded players get scratched. The gaslight framing of prolonged losing skids and ghastly defensive metrics as necessary quote-unquote adversity, merely a byproduct of tough scheduling and nagging injuries. In isolation, none of these red flags were cause for panic, but always something felt off, unsettled, and disconnected. I want to remind everybody that passage that I just read is about the firing of a general manager of a hockey team. I mean, it happens how many times a year across like every major sport? Like guys get fired. Like there are probably 4 other NHL. We just saw an NHL general manager get fired 2 days ago, right? Tom Fitzgerald. There will be more. This is a fairly common event, and this is what you get from Luke Fox Jukebox when it comes to the Maple Leafs. Incredible.
you said it off the top, and we say it all the time about him, that he is the Jane Austen of Master Leaf Theater, but this is this is a little bit David Chase of The Sopranos, a little bit
little,
Charles Dickens,
yeah, a little slam poetry in there as
a little
well. I
slam
felt,
poetry.
yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. And then you know what? The last line is if last I guess yeah, the last line there was it Tom Hanks? Was Tom Hanks yeah, he was Band of Brothers. Tom,
Yeah.
felt very World War II HBO-y as well. So there's a lot going on here, and as you said, it's about a general manager getting fired, which is I mean, I'm not even gonna read the sentences. I'm just gonna read some of the words that he uses to describe the dismissal of a general manager. When the Cincinnati Reds let go of their general manager, we should just read what whoever that what Teach
Right.
Teach Trent Rosencrantz, I think that's his name. I remember him
Yeah.
because he had a fun name. Writes about their general manager getting let go and see if it's like this. Because well, he used the words romantic, arsenic,
Arsenic in the tea.
arsenic in the tea. Oh my god, arsenic in the tea. Oh my god. Yeah, and paper cuts mounting to a flesh wound,
Hmm.
a well-oiled machine churning. There's not a sentence here, not a line that goes without a Victorian turn of phrase. It's unbelievable stuff, and this is gonna be a theme of this. There's gonna be a couple different themes I'm gonna weave through all these. And one of them is that when the Leafs finished last season, if you don't remember, they lost 6-1 in Game 5 against the Florida Panthers at home.
Hmm.
Won Game 6 and then lost 6-1 in Game 7 at home against the Florida Panthers. And then Mitch Marner left. When the season ended last year, nobody was saying that Brad Treliving did a poor job or was doing a poor job with this team. In fact, I think when Keith Pelley was hired and like met the media at the end of last year, people were kind of praising Treliving for the job he did because the Leafs won the division. They
Right.
they won the Atlantic Division. The media slash fan base, although they are one and the same, was saying that one thing that this team should do to avoid playing a hard, tough opponent in round one is to win the division for once. And they did that. Like they checked a huge box, obviously, and none of that was happening. But all these articles are written as if like Brad Treliving has been there for like 8 years and has overseen a crumbling,
Hmm.
rather than just the Leafs between November and April have come completely unfurled, and in that market, because of people like Luke Fox and some of the other luminaries will be sampling today, that is a crime of the utmost order.
Hmm.
And these people. I mean, there's Jonas Siegel and James Myrtle especially are the two culprits for this more than anyone. They talk about how last season they were saying the whole time last season that none of that was real, even though all last season all we heard was why this team was different from those folks. And so these people have decided that they were right about Brad Treliving all along,
Hmm.
despite writing and podcasting the exact opposite. So when it's it's an incredibly strange phenomenon that's going on up there, and Luke gets to do it by writing this kind of stuff, like the death of something once vibrant and
Yeah.
promising.
Well, I think a lot of that too is because, and they're doing it now too, even after Treliving is fired. It didn't take long before people were like, with just a couple of tweaks here and there, they could be right back in the playoffs again. Like, that's all it takes. It's just a couple of tweaks here and there. And like, I don't know if that's necessarily wrong, but as we will see, there's a lot going on with the Leafs beyond just not getting a save here or there. Like there's a lot going on. And so, yeah, any team is a couple of tweaks away from being a playoff team. Like look at the Eastern Conference this year. Look at the Pacific Division this year. Any team just a couple of tweaks away, but for these guys, they need to keep telling themselves that, or else, their entire world comes crashing down. So they have to keep telling. So they tell themselves that all the time, and then the general manager gets fired, and then it's like, okay, well, we don't know who the new GM is going to be, but with a couple of tweaks, they could be a playoff team again. So yeah, this was the perfect way to start. Let me get to this next one because we have another Luke Fox here, and then we're going to get to.
Would you believe it?
Right? Yeah, no, go figure. But then we get to some other guys after that, and so this is actually from a day before. We're actually going to jump backwards in time. This is very Tarantino-esque here, and we're going to get to the before Keith Pelley's press conference and talk about sort of the why of Treliving was fired. And this comes from Sportsnet again for March 31st, 2026, and the title is "We Just Didn't Deliver. Brad Treliving's Firing Shocks Maple Leafs." Again by Luke Fox Jukebox. John Tavares, who took less than market value last summer because he believed in Treliving's vision, used the word shocking. "It's a real tough one," Tavares said. "Brad brought us all in here, tremendous belief in us, and we just didn't deliver. And it falls on us, starting with myself. It's not just playing consistent enough, and what we need to do to be a better hockey team." The last time Treliving spoke to reporters in Toronto was minutes after his underwhelming returns for Bobby McMahon and Scott Lawton. He looked like he'd just seen a ghost. "I'll take responsibility for this season," Treliving said on March 6th. "We got off to a poor start. There's some roster construction issues, lack of consistency, and the ability to maintain any kind of level." Brad, with all due respect, I think your team maintained a pretty strong level this year. Bad. They've been bad the whole time. But,
yeah.
This was a perfect Tavares quote as well, because he gets that starting with myself in there, because he's got to say it starts with me. That's a Tavares favorite. But I thought this was a good way to, kind of get a basic idea of what we're dealing with here. It's nothing special. The team just didn't win a lot. And I just love that he looked like he'd seen a ghost as well. And also, we got to make sure that people know that John Tavares took less money to be here too.
Yep. What is that? That's called a positive, right? When you put commas around like a supporting thought,
Right.
whatever it is. And yeah, Luke Fox, anytime he mentions John Tavares, he usually he does it in like in his quippy little
Right.
beat poet style. Money isn't important to John Tavares kind of way, right? A couple things to point out here. I like this quote from, this is how much of a robot John Tavares is. He just like beep boop bop must respond. Please put my settings to respond to general manager getting fired. Brad brought us all in here. No, he didn't.
That's a good point. I hadn't even realized that.
No, he didn't. That's not the man who. Yeah, he didn't bring you in. He didn't bring Austin in. See the guy over there, Willie Nylander, who Luke Fox is stencil drawing without a shirt on. Didn't bring that guy in. Didn't bring in Joseph Woll. There's like 5 of you that he brought in, actually. Right. So I love that one. He just he's like AI. He just like the facts are, you got to fact check the AI version of a hockey player. And he looked like he'd just seen a ghost. No, man, that's just a man who is just, he's meeting with the media and he just wants you guys to leave him alone. And he's like, why is Jonas Siegel wagging an old newspaper at me at a hockey press conference saying that I didn't get proper value there's no tidy pieces of business here, for Scott Lawton. How did you not get a tidy piece of business? You did get a tidy return for Bobby McMahon.
Right.
So yeah, it's a great start from Luke Fox here for us. And just one that he was on Real Kipper and Born.
Yes.
Yesterday, I think.
Yeah.
And he had a great thing. I guess his like thing right now is writing about, because Scott Lawton played the Leafs the other day, and writing about like him doing the thing that nobody does, which is get traded, then go back to the team that traded you, and in the offseason. But he believes he can, and the reason is that he thinks that the Leafs should do it is because Scott Lawton is the guy the culture guy for the Maple Leafs.
Yes.
And I found it really funny that Luke was making this argument like they should do it. He's the guy who the Leafs desperately need. This is the guy they need to come in and fix the culture here. Luke, he was on the team for the last year and a half, like season and a half. Like he was here.
Right.
Remember all the talk this season about how the culture for Toronto is toxic.
Right.
Scott Lawton was there for that. He was in the
Yeah.
room. He
Right.
might not have been, moping around like
Yeah.
Austin or something or doing what Anthony Stolarz was doing, but he was there. So I couldn't believe it. And what was really funny about that was the lead in to that conversation was Nick Kyprios, Justin Bourne, and Sammy talking about how Matthew Nyes and Scott Lawton like got into a little bit of a scrum.
Yeah.
And like maybe the whole time, like maybe this guy like, didn't like some of these guys. And then I guess Luke didn't listen to that because he's like, yeah, everybody loved him so much.
Yeah. I thought that too. I'm like, I mean, what culture are you guys trying to hold on to here? Like,
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, the whole thing was very funny. And like you said, you pointed out, like, there has been, I think, one documented case, actually two, I think. One was David Perron, and Doug Waite was definitely one. And I think David Perron was the other one. He got traded, and I think he went back one of his 18 times he went back to St. Louis. But I'm pretty sure that was it. Everybody else kind of just left. Or did Keith Kachuk do that when he got traded to Atlanta, and then I think he go back to St. Louis? I'm not sure, but it hasn't been very many. Think of all the guys who get traded every year. It has not been many. And so I don't think that Scott Lawton is going to be the next guy to do it. But again, they just love these guys, and it's with a couple of tweaks, they could be a playoff team. How about if one of those tweaks was a guy we had this year and played on this incredibly disappointing version of this team? We want to bring him back in, but I hadn't really thought about the idea that, and you nailed it. Like, that short passage really does grab the fact that, like, that terrible trade deadline where he didn't get anything, and like in just four, really, maybe, what is it, 6 sentences, you really get a flavor for like what Luke Fox is dealing with every single day and how he tries to make it into this sort of like grand poetic, tragedy of whatever. But we got to sneak in all these things. Tavares took less to stay here. That he's taking responsibility because he's the real captain, not like the guy who actually wears the C. He's the real captain. He wants to be better himself. Oh yeah, by the way, they got nothing at the trade deadline for these guys. Treliving knew it, and he took the blame as well on his way out the door. So really, really well done by Luke Fox, these first two things here. And actually, it was funny. And just a quick aside, I was thinking about this coming in. We put a lot of preparation into this. I don't know if people realize this, but this isn't like something we just kind of do off the top of our heads. Like we actually, I had these saved, and I wanted to, break them down and get the right excerpts to use. I got the links here and everything. And I was thinking about it on the way in, way back from the gym this morning. I was like, as much as we make fun of Luke Fox, and like this bit is in a lot of ways basically just us making fun of this poor man, if he were to ever be like, hey guys, you know what? Covering the Leafs has been great, but I'm moving on now to do my, what I've always really wanted to do, whatever it is, something outside of sports. Like I'm gonna open up a small batch whiskey distillery or whatever, like something completely divorced from the sports world. I actually kind of would feel a little bit sad. Like the next time the Leafs did something, I would be like looking for this sort of purple, flowery, weird Luke Fox jukebox story, and there wouldn't be one. I think I might be a little bit sad about it. It's just so unique.
He's become part of our lives,
Right.
in a very weird way, and I feel the same way. It does feel like that. It's very strange. I don't know, like I don't know what I would do. I'd be really disappointed, and what I don't know if appreciate is the right word. What I am intrigued by, maybe, with him is that he doubles down on the style. Like there's just got to be comments that he's read over the years where he's probably seen people be like, what does any of this mean?
Right. And what does this have to do with the Maple Leafs?
Yeah, like what? And like, why is there this guy? Why does this guy keep talking about who's wearing a shirt and who's not in the Maple Leafs locker room? Like he's got to see it, but he doesn't. It's like he's completely unaffected by it. He just he just rolls into it even more. He's probably so far down whatever wormhole this is that And we've seen this happen to Leafs reporters. Like this is
Yeah.
and honestly, you see it because it's Toronto and they've got the biggest platform of any team in the sport. Like you see you see it almost seep into other media contingents. I think that there's a particular writer for the Islanders
Mm.
who is very who would, if he was writing for the Maple Leafs, would certainly be a subject of the show. And I feel like there's um the way that people, some color commentators, some people on podcasts talk about stuff and make stories out of nothing and pretend like something is important when it's incredibly trivial. It's
Mm.
because they see folks like Luke or Jonas Siegel or the Iron Man David Alter, whose 500 whatever 400 game covering streak came to an end
Right.
this season. They see these guys,
Mm.
Mark Masters asking why Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner didn't do their secret handshake at the red line. Right? They see that stuff and they're like, well, if they're doing it in Toronto on TSN and Rogers Sportsnet,
Right.
I guess I should be doing that too, right? The answer is no, you shouldn't. That's when all these people talk about the media pressure. It's not, as I say all the time, it's not Austin Matthews isn't scoring enough. It's Austin Matthews. Why isn't Austin Matthews doing a secret handshake with Mitch Marner? That's the media pressure that these guys are trying to get away from.
Right.
So I don't. Maybe that's part of it too. Is like that these guys that it has seeped out, but Luke has leaned into it more and more and more.
Mm.
I don't. When he does hang up the quill, I don't. I feel like I think we've said this before too. Like I feel like he's just gonna look around the world and be like, what what happened in the last 12 years?
Right.
You know?
Yeah. What's been
Everybody
going
isn't.
on? Yeah.
Wait, why? The lead story on CNN isn't Brad Treliving?
Right.
What?
Yeah. Exactly.
There are
Uh,
bombs dropping and all this stuff. Like what?
Right.
What did I miss?
Right. Nobody seems to know that William Nylander was tarps
Yeah.
off in the last media availability. So
Those I thought those protesting signs were about Chris Tanev. No, that's not what that catchphrase means. Okay,
Yeah, right.
okay, all right. Well, where have I been?
Right. Yeah. Well, we know where he's been. He's been like,
Right.
across the street from Austin Matthews' apartment with a telescope or something. So, yeah, I just thought about it today. I'm like, man, I'm gonna really miss this guy if he ever like leaves this beat or something, because it's just, we say this all the time. No other team on this continent gets this kind of coverage. Take your Lakers, your Cowboys, your Yankees, whatever the biggest team you could think of, right on down to the mid-level guys like the Cincinnati Reds, to the lower tier guys, whatever. Nobody gets this coverage. Nobody. I mean, UConn basketball doesn't get this coverage. It's really something special, and I will miss it a lot if it ever leaves. Fortunately, we have a lot of other people that we can read. And now, a word from our sponsors. VintageIceHockey.com. Over 100 classic hockey logos on t-shirts, jerseys, hats, mugs, and more. Long Island Ducks, Albany Riverettes, Danbury Trashers, Kentucky Thoroughblades, and so many more. Plus a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch, with our portion of the sales going directly to the Center for Dementia Research. These incredible items cannot be found in stores, so shop VintageIceHockey.com today. Relax, sit back, and enjoy wine from The Pinot Project. Rosé, Pinot Grigio, or a Pinot Noir that was named a Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. These wines are delicious, affordable, and available at area wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com, and please drink responsibly. That's our Luke Fox section, and now we have to kind of move on to the Athletic, which of course covers the Leafs more than any other hockey team. There, I counted 5 people that cover the Leafs on a pretty regular basis. If you include Chris Johnston and Pierre LeBrun, who we're going to, Chris Johnston we're going to use in a few minutes, who are national reporters, but like everybody else, these guys have 5 people covering the Leafs, and most other teams in the NHL have none. There was nothing about the Tom Fitzgerald firing. There was barely anything about the Patrick Waugh firing. It's just sort of like basic stuff from a couple of people. So the Leafs are, again, special in their own way, and this website that was supposed to cover tons of every team, with at least one beat writer, but that is not the case, unfortunately. And so we're going to start with another favorite of yours. Why don't you read this one? It's from Jonas Siegel, of course, covers the Leafs and does the Leafs Report podcast, which is fantastic. If you ever need more Leafs Schadenfreude, definitely check it out. The one on Treliving's firing was like an hour and a half long, which is like 3 times longer than most of their episodes, and it was great. I love when Jonas and James Myrtle almost come to blows. It's fantastic. And this is basically, again, another sort of compilation of all of Brad Treliving's mistakes, and it's called Fired Maple Leafs GM Brad Treliving Took the Team Backwards by Jonas Siegel, and it goes into great detail about all this stuff that he did, and it basically amounted to absolutely nothing. Do you want to take this one?
Absolutely.
Go for it.
There were needless misfires over the years, like signing Ryan Reeves for 3 years because the Leafs needed, quote-unquote, snot, re-signing a difficult puzzle piece in Max Domi for 4 years, and betting $4.15 million in cap space on a banged-up John Klingberg. Treliving never took big, bold, and imaginative swings, not like his counterparts in Tampa and Florida did. There was no deal like the one Bill Zito made for Seth Jones. No crafty transaction like the one Julien Brisebois made to find the unheralded J.J. Moser. Treliving's Leafs stopped finding talent in hidden corners like the Dubas Leafs did in uncovering useful pieces in Michael Bunting, Justin Holl, and Bobby McMahon, among others. The Leafs became conventional under his watch, never outsmarting their opponents. Even the hiring of coach Craig Berube felt more like the obvious rather than the right move.
Fantastic. Where is our J.J. Moser?
Right.
I ask you. Where have you gone, Justin Holl? Oh, the guy you just ran out of town because he stunk?
2 of the 3 guys, Michael Bunting and Justin Holl. Couldn't get rid of those guys quick enough.
Right.
There is, that Seth Jones trade that we all lauded at the time. Yeah. We're all like, wow, Seth Jones. The Panthers are getting Seth Jones. That's
right. We all know they're going to win the next 2 cups because they got Seth Jones. Right. Nobody thought that
trade.
Was
that trade was certainly not given a D- grade or whatever. So I want to do a callback to one of our favorite episodes ever for this one. So yeah, as you said, the title to this piece, his reaction to, his big piece reaction to Brad Treliving's tenure being over and him getting fired, is Fired Maple Leafs GM Brad Treliving Took the Team Backwards. The last time a Maple Leafs general manager was fired, this is what Jonas Siegel wrote. Confusion, this is what the headline was, I should say. Confusion and hurt ripples through Maple Leafs in wake of Kyle Dubas' dismissal.
So on one hand, we are confused and hurt by this shocking betrayal. Yes. On the other hand, that motherfucker took the team backwards, and I'm glad he's gone. Like that's.
You want to hear the best part of that is?
Yeah.
So Brad Treliving, he was in charge for 3 seasons. He came in right after they fired Dubas. He comes in. He had like a shortened off season. First full season with Keith. Keith goes, then hires Craig Berube for these past 2 seasons. In those 3 seasons, the Toronto Maple Leafs won the division, and they won, I believe, 1 playoff series.
Yeah.
In Kyle Dubas's 7 years with the Toronto Maple Leafs, 7, in which he walked into a situation where Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, and William Nylander were already there, plus John Tavares was on his way. In his 7 seasons, the Toronto Maple Leafs won 0 divisions. Well, they won the fake one, the North Division.
Yeah.
But 0 Atlantic divisions, I should say. And they won 1 playoff series. So Brad Treliving and Kyle Dubas each won the same amount of playoff series. But Treliving won the Atlantic Division, something that Dubas could never get. His Leafs, the Dubas Leafs,
right?
Despite all their uncovering of useful pieces,
right,
to do. So I just find it
did
hilarious.
It in like a third of the time.
Of the time, yeah. And he walked into a mess because Dubas had traded away a lot of draft picks and all that stuff. And I just think it's hilarious that these guys are like, he wasn't as good as the last guy, and he wasn't as good as my buddy Kyle.
Hmm.
And that's the real crime here is that, and this has been a repeated point by Jonas and James on their podcast, which is the real mistake, the real cardinal sin here was, well, James Myrtle thinks the cardinal sin was hiring Lou over Dubas. I'm not kidding. And then Jonas thinks it was obviously firing Kyle Dubas, who, once again, I will remind you, had a press conference in front of national television cameras and lied about his company and his bosses to everybody. And so and said he doesn't know if he's going to, if he wants to be the Maple Leafs general manager. I don't know if I want this job anymore, to the millions of people watching.
Yeah.
Wait, why did I just get fired by the company that job I was just talking about not wanting to do anymore? So yeah,
well, he also said that you're not going to see me next week pop up, managing another team, and yeah, that's exactly what happened. Basically, he got let go, and within 2 weeks was managing the Penguins. So,
but he was just exhausted from uncovering so many useful pieces. Justin Holl,
right? Again, it can't be overstated how much these people hated Justin Holl.
Yep.
And every minute he spent on the ice for the Leafs. That's what's so funny.
And how much they all made fun of the Seth Jones. They're like, oh my God, the Leafs have a chance now because the Panthers just splashed on Seth Jones, and the Lightning traded away Mikhail Sergachev for JJ Moser. Like, this is huge for us.
Right. Bunting, though, had his moment that first year because they were aghast that he wasn't like I think a finalist for the Calder. Meanwhile, he was like 28 years old at the time, and it was like, I don't know if he's really kind of a rookie here, guys. But anyway, one last thing on this: the snot that Treliving talked about all the time really gets their goat. Like I've seen this brought up multiple times. This is his version of truculence, obviously during the Brian Burke era, when, the toughness, whatever you want to call it, he called it snot, and these guys absolutely cannot let it go. I think the fact that it's snot just infuriates them more. It would be anything, and they would be mad about it, but the fact that it's snot really, really gets them. They just really hate it.
And I'll once again say that, like, he said snot and was talking about changing the DNA of the team. And when this all happened, I will say that, like, nobody was saying that the Ryan Reeves deal was a coup de grace, but people were like, yeah, they need to change. Like, they need to bring these kind of players in. They need to change their DNA. They need to give that room a shake because it's so, cushy or whatever. So nobody was saying that this is like the wrong direction to take this thing at the time. They're like, yeah, the time for the Dennis Malgin types is over. We need to get these guys, and then he got those guys, and now because they didn't work out, they're all like, well, snot, another 4-letter word, is it's they're basically just trying to say that he's managing a team from the 50s or whatever, the 70s. Again, and this is a common thing here that I thought we've moved past as a hockey society, which is that, like, yeah, you need a little bit of everything. You need some of that razzle dazzle, you need some snot, some toughness, you need goaltending. And that's another thing that just never comes up here, is that the one thing that this guy did do, by the way, Jonas calls it finding talent in a hidden corner. Last year he brought in Anthony Stolarz, and these guys were like, he's got the best numbers in the league. Right. Like, I was like, yeah, that was Brad Treliving brought that guy in. Like, that was a talent in a hidden corner. He was a backup goalie for forever, and there's no patting of the back there.
Right.
After Kyle Dubas couldn't find a goalie to save the Leafs' lives.
Right.
For his entire tenure, because he just assumed it didn't matter.
He's also the guy who brought in Scott Lawton, who we just talked about being like this. No, but he did trade a first round pick for Lawton. So I guess in Jonas's mind, that doesn't really matter, but he was a pretty undervalued player too. But I guess, we find the evidence where we want to look for it. And Jonas loves doing that kind of stuff. But this isn't all. So these are bad moves. Obviously, we talked about, well, some moves made and some moves not made. But that's just on the surface. There is a lot more going on with the Maple Leafs front office during Treliving's tenure that a lot of people don't even know about. And that's where we get to Jonas's podcast partner, James Myrtle, also writing for The Athletic. He's the senior editor or whatever, the NHL at The Athletic. He's some big shot at The Athletic. And he writes a great piece that really you should go back and read all of these, but this one is really great. And he goes into all the different things that are sort of going on, percolating behind the scenes that fans don't even really know, that has led to all of this disarray. And even just the title is fantastic. It says MLSE, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, has made a massive mess of the Maple Leafs after 3 dysfunctional years, by James Myrtle. This also comes from the 31st of March. This is a very short sample of what an article you really should read, but he writes, as bad as the Leafs have been on the ice this season, cratering to the bottom of the NHL standings the past 2 months, it's somehow been worse behind the scenes. The richest team in the league has now become its most small-minded and timid, afraid to do anything approaching creativity or boldness. They've become completely paralyzed, not only by their failures on the ice, but also by the dysfunction that's settled in the past 3 years, which is why they've done absolutely nothing to address their issues all season. On the day, yet another Leafs executive was shown the door, if you want to try and explain the inexplicable. The whys that don't seem to have any reasonable answers with this team, you can start right at the top of the organization. Fantastic, fantastic stuff. And we're going to get to the top of that organization in a minute, but I just love it. It's like, if you think this is bad, we got even worse for you, because James he is maybe the most pessimistic. Him and Jonas, we have called Jonas Charles Dickens of Master Leaf Theater. Like, I think watching the Leafs has like permanently scarred them. And so James wants you to know that as bad as it's been watching this team, oh boy, you have no idea what's going on in the boardrooms and stuff. And I just love the biggest team and the richest team in the league has become its most small-minded and timid. That's a very, very colorful way to put that. I mean, I don't think he's wrong, but just nobody turns up the hype meter in this way, that the way Myrtle does. He doesn't write that often. I don't think he writes like every day as often as Siegel does, but when he does, man, it is with a baseball bat covered in barbed wire, just so it hurts that much more. It's this was great. And again, I highly recommend people go back and read the rest of it.
They've become completely paralyzed, not by their own failures on the ice. Well, I would say that they've become completely paralyzed by their failures on the ice. That's how we got here, is because they keep failing on the ice. Like, I love it. And the fact that him and Jonas especially, the one thing I'll say about Luke Fox was he wasn't as much cheerleading for like the end of Brendan Shanahan's tenure, as much as he was just kind of like narrating us through, and like marching us to the inevitable. Whereas like Jonas and James are like, this guy, because he fired Kyle Dubas, and then also because they just lost again in the playoffs in embarrassing fashion. Like, they're like, this, this guy's got to go. And now they're talking about how the decision to let him go and to like get rid of the president of hockey operations role, and not hire another one, was like a gigantic mistake.
Yeah.
So and is now small-minded and timid to not do that stuff. So I find that, this, as all this stuff is, it's you said it right, finding evidence or just like making an argument that only suits the end you want here. And James is a master at it. He's never been wrong about the Leafs.
Right.
Him and Jonas, like I said, the entire podcast, they just talk about how the entire Brad Treliving era, they've said like this division title it's leading us down the wrong path, and all that. Could have
seen this coming. Could have seen this coming.
Exactly. Yeah, we saw last April when the Leafs were in the playoffs. We were talking about how bad they were going to be next year. Obviously, as we all remember, because of the dysfunction behind the scenes. And are the Leafs a picture of like are they a well-run machine? I would say no, but I would say it's not because of Brad Treliving. Like, it's not Keith like, this is not Keith Pelley. This team has embarrassed itself on the ice. I mean, that's their entire kind of place in the league, right? It's like they're the step on the rakes team.
Mm.
And that's been we're approaching this time next year will be 60th anniversary of their last Stanley Cup. So I would say that they haven't now become dysfunctional. I think that they've probably just been a dysfunctional organization for quite a long time. And but because once again these guys have vilified Brad Treliving, and they've now turned their attention to the man we'll talk about next. It's now now they're dysfunctional. They weren't saying they were dysfunctional when they were blowing 3-1 leads in the series to the Habs, or getting losing every game 7 to the Lightning and to the Bruins. That was a dysfunction. That was bad luck, and that was let's run it back.
Right.
We're actually so functional that we should run it back. And I think that might have something to do with who was the GM at the time, because now that it's, as I said, now that they've won an Atlantic Division and a playoff series later, it's now a complete mess. Which is these guys are ham-fisted.
Yeah. Well, yeah, especially when the GM isn't their close personal friend, which is clearly Brad Treliving was not. Okay. I know you're a fan of this next one, so I want you to take this one. Also from The Athletic comes Chris Johnston, who is another big shot there. Does a lot of national stuff, but of course, when the Leafs need somebody else, he will come in. So Brad Treliving has been fired. He is gone. Keith Pelley, the CEO of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, holds a press conference to talk about what he wants, the search to entail, how he wants to go forward, what kind of person he's looking to lead the Maple Leafs into this new era. Keith Pelley is a veteran TV executive and golf. He was like the head of like the World Golf League or whatever it was, the Ryder Cup, whatever it is. So he's not a hockey guy. And these guys will take every minute, every chance they can get to make sure that that he's not a hockey guy. And Chris Johnston comes at him with both barrels here. I was actually kind of surprised about this. This is a lot more, sharp than Johnston usually is with this kind of stuff. But he does not hold back on Keith Pelley, who's I think making his first appearance in front of the media since like before the season started. And Johnston is not a fan of him, I guess, or what he did here. And I mean, it's pretty. He would say, of course, it's not that, but I thought this was pretty nasty. So this is from, again, March 31st. As Maple Leafs fire Brad Treliving, spotlight shifts to CEO Keith Pelley. But it gets a lot worse than that. Why don't you take this one?
I will certainly narrate this prose about a betrayal.
That's right.
This is the same Pelley who only 10 months ago pushed former President Brendan Shanahan out the door and gushed about having the right leadership team in place. The same Pelley who said, "My role is to try to create a culture and a chemistry within that organization that builds a culture of winning championships," before retreating from view while the 2025-26 Maple Leafs careened off a cliff. The same Pelley who pronounced it go time for the Leafs when he spoke to the Athletic's Pierre LeBrun in October, punctuating his thought with a vote of confidence for Treliving and coach Craig Berube. I think we have two leaders in Brad and Chief to hopefully take us to the promised land. The MLSC president and CEO was either wrong then or he's wrong now. And neither is an acceptable answer.
Man.
Oof.
That's rough.
It's, I'm CJ.
You, sir, are a liar and a scoundrel and a thief and a hornswoggler. That's basically what he's saying here. And again, just to reiterate, 2 years ago, Kyle Dubas said, "You're not going to see me go managing another team next week," and that's exactly what he did. And I don't remember CJ having it out with him the way he just did with Keith Pelley, who said, I mean, from what I can tell, the same kind of dumb shit that every team president says. They take we want to build a winning culture and win cups, yada yada yada. We got a bunch of leaders here. They always say that kind of thing. Like nobody takes them seriously, but these guys did.
You know what? Too, I've got it. I'm sorry, CJ, but I'm going to do this to you, buddy. I'm going to read you something from Chris Johnston from when Keith Pelley was hired. This article is titled "What to Expect as the Leafs Shanna Plan Makes Way for the Pelley Plan." Just win. Finally, something different. A fresh message. Actual urgency. There was an unfamiliar feeling in the room at the Toronto Maple Leafs practice facility, which we of course know as the Ford Performance Center, for Friday's end-of-season media availability, and had everything to do with the new man sitting at the table, Keith Pelley. So yeah, 10 months ago, CJ, you were loving this guy, and the article goes on to gush about how all the how this guy's gonna change the culture, and this team is finally gonna take winning seriously. And there was one where he said there was one part where he said he's not one to sit back and wait for his vision to manifest either. The winds of change are already blowing strongly after a series of organizational meetings were held this week following the Game 7 loss in overtime in Boston last Saturday night. So yeah, two years ago when the Pelley plan took over, it was a very different story from our friend CJ. This guy was the man to lead them to the promised land. He was referring to in this. So
And now he's a hypocrite and a bamboozler.
Yeah, exactly. He lied to me. Not like my friend, unlike the genuine and raw Kyle Dubas, who told me that he wasn't going to take. That wasn't a lie.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, CJ, man. I hated to do that to you.
No.
But
needed to be done.
You've been found out.
Yeah. Yeah. So these guys have changed their tune on Keith Pelley quite a bit. I think some of them had some skepticism, but generally speaking, he was seen as an adult in the room, obviously in the wake of Brendan Shanahan being let go, and he did not get the same reverence and honeymoon period that Shanahan got, which lasted like 8 or 9 years. But what did Keith Pelley actually say at this press conference? Well, you've probably heard by now. He wants a data-driven, candidate that's gonna, use the data, even though the Leafs already have like the biggest data mining, facility in the league, and they have more assistant GMs and more data analysts than every other team in the sport put together. He's got all this. Again, this is kind of stuff that people just say. Like, nobody really takes any of these guys seriously. But there was a bizarre section of the press conference in which a sitting team president, or in this case, parent company CEO, which is even more strange, starts talking about other teams' prospects. Like, who does this? It was very weird. And so I'll take this one. This is from the final member of the Athletics Leafs triumvirate. We didn't get to Pierre LeBrun today, but this was Josh Cloak, who covers the Leafs on a daily basis as well for the Athletic. The list goes on and on with these guys that just cover this. And again, the Florida Panthers, who have won 2 straight Stanley Cups, do not have a writer at the Athletic, but the Leafs have 5. Just I want to point that out again. The Islanders don't have one really, and maybe they don't deserve one, but other teams do, and they're all writing about the Leafs. But anyway, Josh Cloak was at the press conference, and I'm sure they all were, and he writes 7 Maple Leafs takeaways from MLSE President Keith Pelley's media availability. And this again comes from March 31st. And this is the weird part. I mean, it's a long article if you want to know really what he said, but the weirdest part is right here. He says, Cloak writes, perhaps the most confusing point in Pelley's availability was when he praised the Leafs' rivals, the Montreal Canadiens and Buffalo Sabres, instead of showing an honest and critical understanding of how the Leafs have faltered under his watch. Quote, we definitely didn't see the train coming, which was the Buffalo Sabres and Montreal Canadiens, and how strong those teams were, Pelley said. Really? Anyone who has at least perused prospect coverage could have told Pelley the Sabres and the Canadiens had been building young and talented rosters for some time now. And anyone who follows the NHL could have told Pelley that those two teams rely on skill and youth far more than the Leafs have. But why tip your cap to teams that have ostensibly figured things out instead of going into detail of where the Leafs themselves have erred? Why waste time pumping tires of the likes of Sabres defense prospect Radim Murka and Canadiens forward prospect Michael Hage, who Pelley referenced a second time in a scrum following the press conference? It sends, at best, a questionable message to fans about the current vision and ability to assess the state of the team properly. It is very weird that a team's CEO would reference two prospects, two division rivals. It's like if Lou Lamoriello was like, "Yeah, we had a bad season this year, but how about that Gabe Perreault? How about what he's got going on? That guy is something." Like, wait, what? What are you talking about? So Cloak isn't wrong that it's weird, but the way he goes about it, like I guarantee you right now, Josh Cloak is never going to be on Keith Pelley's side, and he's gonna reference this forever now.
Oh yeah.
Remember that
Yep.
press conference where he talked about Michael Hage and Radim Murka?
Yep. I've listened to the press conference because now hopelessly addicted and sick because of this stuff, and I remember what I was like. I was just going for a jog and I was listening to it, and I fist pumped when I heard him do this because I was like, "This is gonna be great!" Like
Right.
I was so excited that he did that because I knew that the fallout would be great. It would lead to something like this. Then I kind of hit me that just how bizarre that whole thing was, and I think you said like who it reminded me of a little bit was Charles Wang.
Yeah.
Charles would put his foot in his mouth quite a bit, but like in a very oh, that's cute kind of way, right? And luckily we're on Long Island, and when it would only make headlines into the hockey media sphere if he went totally bizarre, like sumo wrestler goalies and stuff like that. And as we said, Charles' heart was in the right place for throughout all his whole career. But that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of someone who's just like an owner or an executive who has none of the training or wherewithal in terms of like hockey, that when they get behind a microphone it could become a train wreck. And um I don't think when CJ referenced like this guy had been a recluse essentially
Mm.
for a year. Now you know why. It was because like if you give him a microphone, he's gonna probably do something like this. And the first thought I had after all that too was that, oh, so this is this guy's way of telling us that he was probably in the war room for the trade deadline, being like, why don't we get Radim Murka from the Buffalo Sabres? And then Kipper and was like, yeah, that's probably what happened. Like he
Mm.
probably was in these meetings and heard these names come up and like jotted them down and doesn't know who they are or anything, but knows that like when the Leafs were discussing different things and being like, well, can we get Radim Murka and or Michael Hage? And he those names stuck. But yeah, I think it made me put a couple things in perspective as the next articles did too that we'll go through. Which is that yeah, the Islanders certainly had some and have had a lot of um dysfunction, and maybe I don't know what the word is, but they've had a lot of swings and misses, I think, this season in terms of on ice, off ice stuff. And I'm just very glad that I didn't yeah, like you said, I didn't hear like Lou Lamoriello or John Collins come out and just be like, man, if only we were able to trade for Simone Nemitz at the
Right.
trade deadline, like
Like, right.
I so I guess we do have that going for us.
Can you imagine? Man, that Brennan Othman, he's really
Ah,
something. I hear a
yeah.
lot about him. Yeah. So,
It's a
yeah.
failure on our part for not having a player like Gabe
Right.
Perreault. Yeah,
Or
like,
Braden
what?
Schneider. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like, it was just very strange. Very, very
Very yeah.
strange.
One of the strangest. And this is what's really interesting about Maple Leafs, excuse me, about Master Leafs Theater as an exercise is that that moment to me is one that deserves the type of um deep dive investigative journalist, flowery prose. Like you can take something like that and really make a meal out of it because it deserves to be.
Hmm.
Fraser Minton being the last person off the ice at a outdoor practice
Right.
does not. So like that's what, like if it's a very boy who cries wolf. If we make a huge deal out of everything,
Hmm.
then the things that need to have that should be made a big deal out of, where people are already tired of the hyperbole, so they're just like, whatever, we'll just move on.
Yeah. It is. I hadn't really thought of it that way. The sort of boy who cried wolf sort of scenario where, it's like, yeah, this to me is, yeah, it's not a big deal. I mean, it's a weird thing, but I think most people would be like, that was very odd. And you could really tell, like, Pelly's never done this before. He's not a hockey guy. He doesn't really talk to hockey people. And so he maybe didn't realize that was very strange. You might also wonder, how the hell did he even come to know these two guys? He probably read some blog post or whatever by one of these guys that we're making fun of here before going into this press conference. But it's just, I think you're right. I think we did hear that, like, he was in the room. Some people were speculating, like, oh, were they going to acquire Michael Haig for Matthew Nyes or something like that? So it might have been something like that. Who knows? But why he brought it up, I don't know. And I'm guessing it's probably because he was under a barrage of dumb questions by the Maple Leafs press throng and didn't know what else to say, and maybe tried to, like, show off some sort of, like, hockey bona fides, and did it in the most ham-fisted way, like you said, possible, and it just didn't go where he wanted to. But in any event, that's just another thing that these guys are going to hold over Keith Pelley's head for the rest of his life, I'm sure. But we're not done with Keith Pelley yet, because we got another thing here, and this might be my favorite one after the opener, because this is really something that I just, the fact that this got written now is very telling, because these things, I don't think, were, they could have written about this stuff at any point this season, but they chose after the firing of Treliving and after the Keith Pelley press conference to blow the lid off of a scandal that has enveloped and, demoralized Leafs fans, I guess. Maybe not. I don't know, because maybe some of them can afford this stuff. And I just thought this was very funny. Like, you guys could have written about this at any point, but you chose now to do it, which tells me a lot. This is also from Jonas Siegel, and it's called "How the Maple Leafs Changed Under Keith Pelley, from $1,000 locker room dinners to $96 selfies." Do you want to take this one?
Oh, it would be my honor.
Go for it.
Pelley reiterated his willingness to do, quote, anything that gives the Toronto Maple Leafs the best chance to win the Stanley Cup, end quote, in an extraordinary press conference on Tuesday afternoon. But clearly, he has other unstated aims, too. It isn't just the hockey side of the operation that's evolved under his leadership, that is. Things have changed on the business side, too. How far will the Leafs go to make a buck? Try a price tag of $956.83 for a young fan, parentheses, ages 8 to 12, to stand on the ice and wave a flag before a Leafs home game. That doesn't include a ticket to the game, which is required. Want to hit the Leafs goal horn? You can do so for $63.79. Snapping a photo on the ice after the game will run you $95.68 per person. A $96 selfie, in other words, plus the cost of a ticket. Those, quote, game day plus-ups, end quote, are part of the, quote, fan access, end quote, program that launched under Pelley's leadership last spring and allow, quote, fans of all of our teams and entertainment properties to enjoy the many benefits and experiences it has to offer, end quote. It's not cheap.
This is really something. I'm with Jonas that this is absurd.
Yeah.
But again, my point is, where was this in October? Where was this, like, when the season starts, where you're like, wait, you're charging how much for people to get on the ice and take a selfie on top of the ticket? What are you talking about? They waited until just the right moment where they're like, this guy's an asshole. Like, that's basically what these last three things have all been about. What an asshole this guy is, and they might be right. I don't know, but
I think they probably are, and we could have probably told you that from the moment he opened his mouth when we were. Right. I remember this quote from our when Keith Pelley Palooza happened, and we did a Master Leafs theater about him joining. We're like, why do we know who this guy is? And be like, and why are these guys all fawning at his feet when he's talking in corporate gibberish to them? And they're all, and Chris Johnston's like, oh my God, this is a new era, like, finally. and obviously 2 years later, Chris has turned on that. But yeah, I mean, that's this guy's job is to do that, is to to be the asshole at the top who's like,
Right.
okay, if a fan walks in the door, our mission is now to squeeze every cent out of them.
Yeah.
And as you said, like the thing here is Jonas, man, this would have been something you probably would have wanted to do a few months ago. Now it seems yeah, a little kicking while someone's down or a little bit, but um as I alluded to before, it does put in perspective and I think this is we obviously when the Islanders do stuff like this, we're pretty critical of it. Um when they're like blatantly just trying to find a way to get you in the door, flip you
Mm,
upside down, empty your pockets, and then get you
right.
out. Like when the
Right.
Islanders make those decisions, we are not afraid to call them out on it.
I mean,
Um,
we've been
and we
going on about Belmont Village,
right,
the
right.
high end outdoor mall, the entire time it's been here. To the point where I feel like maybe we should do a thing where like we go there, like do like a video thing where we walk around there and look at like the Hermes stores and whatnot and see what we can buy.
It-
But I mean,
I feel
that
like
might get
it'll
us
be like
banned from the arena. I don't know.
I was gonna say it'll be like when I went to Lord's Cricket Ground and they were like, "Get," and I just was just trying to go to the gift shop and they're like, "Get out of here, you!"
Yeah,
and
I don't want to make it worse, but
um, but the difference is that when we do it in real time, we're like,
mm,
"Wow, that you know,
right.
why is this thing at Isles Lab $98?" We don't wait for y- John Collins, let's say, to be fired or whatever, to step down and be like, you know, I
Right.
remember like 6 months ago hearing that Isles Lab was upcharging, $98 plus a required ticket for that picture.
Right.
So yeah, that's not it doesn't, let's just put it this way. It doesn't surprise me. Like Jonas is writing this from the perspective of someone who's like aghast that the Toronto Maple Leafs, the richest team in the sport, are trying to make a quick buck off of 10-year-olds
Right.
taking a picture at center ice. Like, yeah, of course they are, Jonas. That's
Right.
that's what these teams do.
Yeah, I mean, they've been Jonas. These guys have been squeezing you for 100 years. Like it's
Right.
they have never not squeezed you guys for every dime that they can make out of you, but they keep paying it. So yeah, I just thought it was very funny. Also, game day plus ups is
Oh
the
my god.
dumbest thing I've ever heard
Oh
in
my
my
god.
entire life.
I'm
Like I
just
know,
I when I read that I was like, I imagine being in that meeting, being like, what should
right.
we call these initiatives?
I know we live in a world of like, Disney Plus, Paramount Plus. It's just kind of like a buzzword now, but game day plus ups is ridiculous. Whoever, I hope that person got fired in the same day Brad Treliving did. Like
Yeah.
you're the game day plus ups guy. Get out. Please get out of marketing forever. Thank you very much. But yeah, I just thought it was very funny. I mean, and again, like it was interesting in the sense that like obviously I know the Leafs are expensive. We all know their tickets are expensive. Like I didn't realize that they were charging you this much to like wave a flag on the ice or like you
Yeah.
know uh to press the goal horn. Like in one hand it's kind of ingenious that they would have a kid do that, but on the other hand, can you imagine the
No.
kids this kid and his parents who with that much money to do this? Oh my god, they're probably not fun people to hang around with, but that's just me. Maybe I'm projecting, but in any event, okay, we have come to the end of this fantastic episode of Master Leaf Theater, which I forgot to mention is called A Tree Falls in Toronto. The tree in this case, of course, being Brad Treliving. And I wasn't quite sure how to end it. For a while, it was going to be bookended with Luke Fox articles. I thought that was probably the best way to go. But, it wasn't really sitting right. And, you got to have something that kind of punchy at the end, and then not necessarily the funniest thing at the end, but something punchy, something that really kind of, ties the whole thing together. And thank God for Frank Saravalli, our silver-haired hockey insider, brought forth a couple of tweets today, from April 7th, 2026, that do kind of tie this and sort of send it off into the next phase, whatever that is. Whether we cover that in a Master Leaf Theater episode in the future remains to be seen. We shall see. We've done a lot of them this year. But in order to get the search for a new GM underway, Keith Pelley did or has done what a lot of rich guys do in situations where they need to do some work. They find another rich guy to do the work. And the other rich guy in this case is a guy named Neil Glassberg, who runs a company called PBI Sports. And what PBI Sports does is they're a consultant firm, and they help teams search for executives. That's cool. I guess, I mean, they're kind of a headhunter group. I guess that's fine. A lot of industries have these sort of things. Here's the problem. The PBI group also is an agent for hockey executives and hockey coaches. And that is a problem because they are leading a search that could potentially cause one of their clients to get hired. And that is an extreme conflict of interest. And Frank, to his credit, has been all over this because for a while back, they were signed up by the Flyers to search for people. I guess this was maybe when Danny Briere was hired. The Flyers, by the way, went with their own headhunting principle that has never failed them, which is just bring in old Flyers. That usually works for them. You don't need a firm to do that. Just you wore orange and black. Okay, come on, you're hired. Great job. But yeah, so Frank. So when the Leafs mentioned, announced that they were using this Glassberg firm to find their new general manager, Frank was not having it. And this is a bunch of tweets. I'll put the last one in here because it was very funny and it gets to the whole point. So there's a guy named Sonny Mehta who works for the Florida Panthers, who is like in the running apparently for being the Leafs GM. And he is one of this Glassberg guy's clients. And so Frank put out on Twitter, again, this is from today. He writes, text message from a current NHL executive, hashtag Leafs Forever, hiring Neil Glassberg to conduct search. Number 1, get paid to run search. Number 2, search hires your client as GM, parentheses, get paid again. Number 3, client hires another client as head coach, parentheses, get paid again. The only question is if Neil can hit a superfecta, search, client as president, client as GM, client as head coach. That is genius. And now I kind of want to see that because Frank's head would explode. His silver-topped head was absolutely explode. Again, he's not wrong, but it's just very funny that like the Leafs have once again found themselves in a situation where, really, you're doing this? Really? Is this really the smartest way to go about this? And I just thought it was very funny. I'm sure I did a poor job of explaining all this, but you should definitely check out this Daily Faceoff article that I have here that explains what happened back with the Flyers and will make you wonder, I don't know about these guys. I think there's probably a better way for the Leafs to find a new GM. Probably just hire an old Leaf. I don't understand. What are we doing here?
I love this. Is one of my favorite rackets in hockey is like the search executive firm,
That's so
like the
funny.
executive search firm. Because if they wanted to hire the Islanders anxiety executive search firm, I think we could do a pretty good job. Hey, should we hire Pete Chiarelli? No, like
Right.
no, don't do that. Oh, okay, all right.
Remember when Ken Holland leaked? And
Yeah,
everybody
right.
was like, "No, what are you doing?" That was the end of that.
Yep. So I it's such a good racket. Like,
Yeah.
come on, like Keith. I'm too busy to find the president of hockey operations and the GM. So can you please do this for me? Yeah, absolutely. And Kip and they had some laughs about this and about how they're not going to rush because like, oh well, they got to make sure to bill all the hours that they can. Certainly didn't work on Good Friday. Won't work on Easter Monday. Right. So the search starts Tuesday, and I mean it's a good picture of the state of things, and I don't think you and I agree with Frank Saravalli on essentially anything aside from our point of view on this being a complete total racket. So, great way to lead off to leave the show and get one last laugh at the Leafs because we can't. There's not much to brighten the mood around our team, so at least try to do this and we got to forget about them for an hour and change. So that was nice.
It was nice. It's always fun to make fun of the Leafs. I am looking forward to who this firm unearths as their general manager and his eventual failure, and our eventual Master Leaf Theater is about that as well. It is fun, but it's a reminder that your team is always, sort of one decision away or, one day away from also being the focus of jokes like this. And while we've been doing this, the scoreboard could not have possibly gone worse for the Islanders tonight. So it makes this even more fun to laugh at somebody else, because if we didn't, we would just be crying about our team's fortunes. But we hope you've enjoyed this. Again, I'm not sure when we'll do another one because we have done a lot of Master Leaf Theaters this year. This is our second standalone Master Leaf Theater this season. And I think we've done like maybe 4 or 5 in episode Master Leafs that always go much longer, than we expect because we have too much fun with them. So we'll see where this goes, who Keith Pelley brings in. Maybe this rich guy who was hired by the other rich guy will find a third rich guy to bring to look for a GM, and they'll just end up hiring Chris Pronger, who's also a rich guy, and he'll just be like, "Why don't you go out and get some big defensemen?" Oh, okay, that's a great plan. Let's do that. Because he's got a book to promote. It's actually very funny that he's out here saying like, "I can fix the Leafs." Can you though? Really?
Yeah.
Maybe he can. We'll see. But anyway, any final thoughts on this very varied? And I love them when we can get different people in here. We only had a couple of repeats, but I love when we can get a varied selection of artists for Master Leaf Theater. Do you have any final thoughts on all of this?
No, and yeah, I guess it's we're nearing the end of the season, and I'm sure when this search firm finds the new executives to put in place, we'll have some fun stuff. No matter who it is, no matter who the data centric hire is, we'll have some fun stuff come out because it'll either be you know a bold they're not being small and timid anymore, or if it's another hockey man, look out because Jonas Siegel might go hunger strike on us.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, we will definitely be watching because we can't not watch because
Yeah.
we're hockey fans and it's going to be shoved in our face anyway. Thank you very much for listening. We of course will be back on Sunday with a brand new episode of we'll be back on Monday with a brand new episode of Islanders Anxiety that may very well be wrapping up the regular season. We'll see what Peter DeBoer has in store for us in his first 3 games as Islanders head coach. Until then, we'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.